Hey everyone, this is Forgotten Rights. Now I'm going to be talking to you about something that's highly controversial among libertarians, anarcho-capitalists, and the like, and that is whether or not you should vote, and for whom should you vote, if at all. Uh, so the thing we get a lot from certain people that I think are very entertaining, and I agree with a lot of what they say, is that it doesn't matter if you vote left or right. The whole thing is just a scheme. It's never going to be more helpful to liberty to vote one way or another. That's not true. I mean, if you look at just the most recent elections, I mean, people spend, I think it was billions of dollars on the whole election cycle. People don't spend billions of dollars. I mean, take for example George Soros. He's throwing money left and right. You don't see that huge amount of money being transferred if it's completely pointless. And people seem to think that they're like equal in terms of policy. They're clearly not equal in terms of policy. I mean, you can tell that just from the fact that people care so much about it. Why do you think there was such a huge reaction from everyone in Hollywood this election cycle? Like everyone was hating on Trump, and it wasn't just because it was a popular thing to do. It was a popular thing to do, but it wasn't just that. It was also because there was huge amounts of money involved. Think all those people doing music videos for Biden and whatnot. Think all those people were just doing it because they cared about the country and believed he was the best choice for it, or even just because they were evil and thought that he was a good man or something. No, 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 no. No, they were doing it because there was money involved. I mean, and thinking that people do any political advertisements without money involved is pretty stupid. Okay, that sounded a little tone deaf when I said that, but hopefully you can tell from the sound quality that I'm not backed by George Soros or anything. But it's pretty clear that there's a difference between left and right, and it's a relevant difference for people who actually care about liberty. Now, and you'll see a lot of people talk about this, and they'll say like, "Well, there's not a big difference between left and right." The left. I mean, they might support bigger government and taking guns, but I mean, people on the right support harsher drug penalties and opposition, or sorry, pro-war positions. First of all, people on both sides support war. Never get in your head that Democrats are soft on war. No, they love war. I mean, the Democrats say they want to cut the military budget, but that's just because they don't want to have proper military defense. They prefer to just do the old USSR strategy of being capable of killing other people and not capable of actually defending their own citizens. That said, I don't think Republicans are good in any sense. I mean, taxation is theft after all, and I mean, and frankly, I think the analysis of whether or not taxation is theft is just a good litmus test to see if someone has actually intellectually engaged in the ideas of government at all, or if they're being disingenuous, or if they're just generally deluded. I wouldn't say stupid. I don't think intelligence has anything to do with it. Just whether or not they've heard arguments. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of tragic. So few people have actually like critically considered what impacts their daily life so much. But that's the world we live in. People they're not stupid, but they kind of go along with a lot of bad stuff. Uh, so what's the difference between left and right? Well, people on the right will support lower taxation. Now they still do take your money. I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. But in many cases, they will not raise taxes as high as people on the left. Now you might say, okay, but they're still engaging in the principle of taxation. And who cares about principle? Okay, what if it was like 0.001% tax? I mean, wouldn't that be better than like a 30% tax? Like, it matters a little bit what the percentage is. I mean, and you can see there are actual legitimate differences in taxation between people on the right and left. Say the only thing you cared about was money. Say you were what people accuse libertarians of being, just selfish and greedy. Yeah, then if you were selfish and greedy, it would make sense to vote Republican. It would really make sense to do that because they always support lower taxation. And you saw something like this with 50 Cent. He was actually pointing this out. He's saying like, if Biden wins, the top tax rate in California is going to be like 62% or something. I don't want to be 25 cent. Well, actually, no, it would be less than 25 cent. It'd be like 20 cent. But in any case, there is a difference. I mean, you don't see billions of dollars invested from foreign governments and from local billionaires, sort of local billionaires, George Soros and other massive CEOs or CEOs of massive companies. You don't see billions of dollars, and you don't see such a huge reaction unless there's actually a difference between the people. Now you might be saying, they're just fighting over they're just fighting over the gun they'll use to piss whip us and rob us. Okay, that's a fair point. That Republicans are evil. They will rob you. They'll just rob you for less than Democrats. The best analogy I think for this is Republicans and Democrats, or politicians in general, are abusive husbands. And a Republican will smack you with an open hand, and a Democrat will beat you with a blunt object. Now it's a little graphic, but I think it's pretty obvious. Now some people have said something like, "Well, Trump being in office didn't change anything." Okay, yeah, that's because you can only get into office if you can at least give the impression of being somewhat moderate. I mean, just because someone's incapable of achieving something doesn't mean achieving one good thing doesn't mean they haven't done other good things. Like people say, Trump supported bump stock bans. And would you rather have a bump stock ban or a ban of all semi-automatic rifles? Because that's what Biden wants. I mean, he says openly, and you might say that'll never happen. Yeah, it happened in the 90s. Like, we saw massive bans, and they're getting more extreme. They're pushing for stuff that was harsher than in the 90s. So yeah, it matters. Like, if you, I don't know if you see anything like Colio Noir, but and I don't know if you really care about anyone's opinion, if you just want facts, but I mean, he is a Second Amendment advocate, and he recognizes that no one supports gun control like Democrats. So, the fact of the matter is, there is a huge difference. Just consider, if for the last 20 years, Democrats had been in control of the Supreme Court and the Congress and the presidency, they'd been in control all that time, do you think you would have more restrictions placed on your firearm rights? Do you think that? Think of your taxation rate. If the Democrats had been in control for the last 20 years, do you think your taxation would be different? Yes, of course it'd be different. There is a difference.